So it's that time of the week again, another time for an Umbraco U hangout, and today I'm joined by Jeavon. How are you doing, Jeavon?
I'm good, thank you, Warren. How are you?
Good. Yeah,
I
I'm
think
very, very good.
this is the fourth time on Youth Hangout, and
Yeah,
the
exactly. It's becoming a
first time
regular thing now.
I know, and you got my name right for the first time. Well done.
Finally. I'm terrible with names. Terrible with names. So obviously, if people haven't seen previous episodes, but we always do an introduction. So let's recap. So long time Umbraco MVP now. So two times, three times.
Two times, yeah.
No, two-time MVP. Awesome. So you're kind of Mr. Package at the minute. You're kind of Mr. Contributor on a lot of packages in the community. So how did that come about, really?
I think one of the wonderful things about an open source ecosystem like Umbraco, and especially Umbraco, is that some of the packages are really fundamental to a lot of projects. And obviously, actually maintaining packages is hard work, especially for a single developer.
Yep, definitely is.
So when we're using packages as we do, and we come across issues or need to add features, the great thing is you can just get in there, have a go, add it, fix it, send it back.
Yep.
That's a sort of policy we have, and I think the same thing sort of applies to Umbraco itself as well as the packages.
Which is nice. Okay, so today we're going to be talking about Azure, however you want to pronounce it, and media and some team development stuff.
Absolutely.
So this is, I suppose, another contribution with another package. Which
it is.
The image. I'm going to get the name wrong for this one. Is it the Azure Image Provider?
It's the Umbraco file system providers for Azure.
Azure, that's the one.
Which is a package, written by James South, and it was also based on a package written by Dirk Seafield before.
I was going to say, there's an original one. There was a first contribution from Dirk, yes?
Yeah. So James took what Dirk did and has updated it, revised it, and added some pretty nifty stuff that sort of makes it work better. And also integrates quite tightly with image processor, which we'll see.
Awesome, which is exactly what we want to see.
Yeah. So James came along and sort of said, he'd done all the clever stuff, but when it came to creating an Umbraco installer, it's a little bit different. And that's where I got involved, really, was to actually write an installer for Umbraco for this package.
Okay, so what, in terms of helping with the continuous integration and kind of creating the kind of generating that package from continuous integration, or just getting involved in creating a package and making it so this works as a NuGet and a normal package, and I suppose it's doing a lot of transforms and moving parts.
Exactly, yeah. So one of the main things is that it does a lot of transforms, it does a lot of configuration, and also within that configuration there's a lot of settings that you have to enter. Now with NuGet, it's fine, it gives you a config file, you fill in the values, but obviously with Umbraco it is running. So when you install a package, it's changing those files there and then, which is a problem when you need to enter values, because it just breaks the site. Basically, we break the site and Umbraco. So so we can look at that a little more later.
Yeah, no, definitely. I'm definitely interested to see kind of the tips and tricks that you've learned along the way, because that is a tricky one to get right.
Yeah, exactly. And I know you had Tim on not that long ago talking about his 404 handler, and one of the things he added in there we've used, which is the XTT stuff, transforms, and we can have a look at that.
Yeah,
maybe.
That'd be...
And probably best to go through it and see it first of all.
Yeah, let's jump and do a screen share and see it in action, I suppose.
Okay.
The wonderful world of Skype and screen sharing.
Yeah. So hopefully I should have screen share.
It's coming along. Chug. There we go. Awesome.
Okay. So this is where you come to download the package if you're installing on Umbraco. There is also a NuGet version, and I'll come back to that once I've done it using Umbraco. So you can obviously come onto our site and can download the package here. So I have here just a vanilla GNU starter kit with images and etc. This great image from a few years ago. And what we're going to do is we're going to move the media in this installation to an Azure storage account. Now then, hopefully, if the Azure portal is there, let's have a look if it is.
Yeah, it was being temperamental before
It is
we
being
started.
No, it's not playing ball. So we might try that later, but you can just create an Azure storage account in the same way as you would do normally. It's just a normal storage account. It would be in what they call classic mode if you want to use content delivery.
Okay.
There is a new mode which content delivery doesn't currently work with, but classic is the default when you go through the portal to create a storage account anyway. I've got one here. Now the old Azure portal is not having any problems, so we can use that fine. So I've got one I created here earlier called Your Hangout Demo.
Yep.
So what we're going to do is I'm going to just use the back office of this one here. So I'm just going to install the package. And here. There's a whole load of binaries in here, all to do with accessing Azure and things.
Yep.
They're all safe. So once that's installed, it's going to load up a configuration screen.
Yep.
So obviously Umbraco is restarting in the background here. So we get this configuration screen. Mostly you're just going to leave the container name as media. Normally I would just leave it as that anyway, because I think there are potentially some issues if you have it called something else.
Yep.
Then you're going to need the name of your storage account. So this one's Your Hangout Demo, which you're going to need to put in here. And then you're going to need the connection string. Now in the new portal, you can actually get a whole connection string from a copy and paste. In the old one,
You have to
do this. There are going to be lots
cobble
of,
it together, don't you?
Exactly. So there are going to be lots of keys shown in this video. I will be changing them all afterwards.
Yeah.
So we're just going to put the key in there, and we're going to put in the account name there, and we're going to hit save.
So the max days is talking about the cache. Yeah.
Exactly, yeah. It's the cache header that's put onto the files when they put up in storage. Tells it the maximum time before that file should be refreshed. So there is a lot of checking that actually goes on here to make sure that everything's okay, and there's various warnings and errors and things that would come back here if it wasn't, if there was a problem. But everything was okay. So this means that now that this site, all of its media, is coming from Azure Storage. So what we should see, if we look at the front end, load up, is that all the media will be missing. We just have to refresh the browser. There we go. So we've lost all of our images.
Yeah.
So I'm just going
expected.
Yeah, as expected. So I'm just going to show, some people have asked before, how do you go about installing this on an existing site rather than a new one?
Yep.
So there are various different cloud explorers out there. I use this one, which is Clumsy Leaf, I think it is. There is one even in Visual Studio, but
it's a bit clunky.
It's a bit clunky. This one's pretty neat, and it's pretty easy to just drag and drop. I think it is. I think there's a free version. I think this is $50, whatever it is. So I've connected my store account here.
Yep.
And I've got a media container, which actually the installer would have created for me.
Okay.
So I'm going to go onto my local file system, go to my media folder, get all the files, and just drag them into there so they all upload.
And,
okay.
and when Azure storage, I know for some people it might be totally new, the word or the term probably container is
Yeah.
probably just best thought as a folder, really.
Yeah, so containers are folders at the root level.
Yeah.
So they're ones at the root. So these are blob folders. These are containers. They have a slightly different icon, and they're the ones that are at the root level of the storage account. Now, these are blobs. There are other things in Azure Storage as well, like tables and things, but we're just dealing with blobs here.
Yeah.
Strange terminology.
Yeah, it is a bit strange when I first looked at it.
Yeah, one thing to just mention, if you are planning to use a CDN, and we'll look at those later, on your container you need to make sure that it's set to public read access. If you have it as private, then the CDN won't work with it. If you're not planning to use a CDN, you can leave it as private. I think. Maybe you can't, actually. Probably best just put it public.
Yeah.
So that's all those moves. So actually, I can now delete all of those from my local site.
So that's on. So one on the left is your local. Okay.
Yeah.
So they're gone. Poof.
Yeah, they're gone forever. And the whole idea with this is there will never be any in here, which is a good thing for many reasons, especially if you don't want to commit them to source control and you've got, don't want to bloat your repository size, don't need to worry about them anymore.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
So we're going to refresh the site. And there we go. So those images are now being pulled from that storage account by image processor.
Fantastic.
So what we're going to do is we're just going to upload some images into this site. We'll upload these 3. So in the background, these images are being uploaded to the storage account now. And you can see that everything is working as it should in the back office. So even though these images are coming from Azure Storage, everything in the back office works, which is really good. And that's in part down to a virtual path provider. So as soon as you've gone Daleki, Warren.
Oh, I've gone Daleki as per usual. 2 seconds.
Okay. So anything in the path media gets picked up by the path provider, which means that everything works. The only thing to watch out for is you can't no longer render media. So you can't have a page with the URL media. It won't work anymore.
Okay, so can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So just to recap, so you can't, if I was to manually kind of reference this, say, in an image tag, I can't then just do /media/123/foobar.jpg.
Oh, no, you absolutely can with media. You just can't have a content node that has the URL media and expect a page.
Oh, the content node, sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because the path provider will pick that up and go, I've got to give you some image or something. So we probably should have an event that prevents it or something.
Okay.
Somewhere. I'm sure we could do that.
So that virtual path provider, so is that then in the CMS giving us relative URLs /media/123/foo as opposed to uhangout.storage.blob storage.azure.net /whatever?
Exactly. So everything's just working as normal and the path provider's picking it up. In the back office, that's happening. On the front end, it's actually going through image processor. So any request, except if it's a PDF, any request for an image processor will pick up and it will use a cloud service to go and grab the image for you. Mm-hmm. If it was a PDF or something, then that's going to go through the virtual path provider.
Right, neat. That's nice.
2 different things going on there.
And it kind of hides the fact that these are kind of stored on a blob storage?
Exactly, yeah. So I'm just going to publish these images here and just check our front website. So as before, we actually move the images. These ones have been uploaded to the storage from the back office, and then image processor is requesting them on the front end.
Awesome. So one thing I was going to ask, so you're saying that it just all works seamlessly. So is this now going to just work seamlessly with like crops and things like that with image processor?
Yes, it will just work with image processor. So if you have any crops or anything like that, they will just work. Now this starter kit doesn't have any crops by default, but we can enable one in a minute. But because every image going through this is going through image processor, regardless of if you've resized it or anything. They're all going to get pulled from the cloud storage. One of the good things about image processor is doing also in this scenario, this setup here, is obviously you don't want it to be going to the internet the whole time. So what it does when it makes the first request, it caches the images using its disk cache module. So if you were to look in the cache folder in app data, you would find the image processor is caching. So once it's made that request, it's taking it to your local machine and keeping the resulting image. Yeah. Obviously, you never commit that folder into source control or anything like that anyway. It's disposable folder. Yeah. So next thing I'm just going to do, and I'll explain why, is so I've installed that through Umbraco, and I used the installer, and it was all worked really well. Yep. But I'm a Visual Studio user, so actually I might have wanted to install that with NuGet. Mm-hmm. So I am just going to do that down here. Now, one of the good things, because of the package where it uses the transforms both in NuGet and Umbraco, I can actually install the NuGet package over the top, and it won't undo any of the configuration. It's done for me.
That was my concern. I was just about to ask, are you doing this on the one that you've already installed it?
Yeah, I am.
So this is not going to lose your existing config changes that you filled in that dashboard after the
Absolutely. Exactly, absolutely not. But what it's going to mean is I haven't got to worry about the DLLs or anything that the Umbraco package installed. Now, in an ideal world, and I know Shannon outlined this at the UK Festival the last week, he has this idea of package migrations, where hopefully this could actually work in reverse. So I can install a NuGet package, and then when I started up my Umbraco, it would have brought me up that screen effectively to let me configure it.
Yeah. So if I went down the NuGet route to begin with and didn't use the Umbraco package, how would I go about setting this up? Do I just go to a file on disk, or do I go to some dashboard that would still exist? Or
no, you would need to go. There is documentation on the GitHub repository here about all the different things, all the different files you'd need to go through to change the various settings. There's also, this package is recommended for Umbraco as a service, and there's a really good walkthrough on the Umbraco as a service documentation that Paul Sterling's written, which is step-by-step configuration of all the different stuff you need to do.
Fantastic.
But obviously, if you use the Umbraco installer, it does all that for you, which is a good reason to use it. Let's just check if it's finished. Yeah, it did. Okay, fine. So we now have that installed. Let's just build it and make sure it's done what I hope it all does done. Okay, let's just check the website. The reason I'm doing this is because the next step is to think about what if you wanted to use a content delivery network. Okay, cool. So it's still working. I've installed it with NuGet. I've rebuilt, so it's replaced with DLL, so everything is good. So if you wanted to deliver these images from CDN, this is actually very easy to do, thanks to this plugin here for Image Processor.
Okay.
So because all of those images are going through Image Processor, you can install the Azure Blob cache plugin. And what this does is it moves this cache folder we looked at before into a separate container in the storage. So all of the generated files are placed into that container, and then, which I have done in advance because it takes a while, you can put a CDN
on a blob storage folder, or
somewhere
container. Sorry,
somewhere there's a CDN icon.
I never remember which one it looks like.
Right, there we go. It's the cloud with the thing in it. So I've set this up already here. This Hangout demo. It does take an hour or two, or maybe a little bit longer. So
to propagate and kind of fetch stuff and.
No, just to start up when you first add a CDN. It's not like other Azure services. There it says it's ready. It's not ready for an hour, at least sometimes a few hours.
Okay.
So I did this last night, so it should be ready to go, and that's attached to that storage container. So anything that gets put into here will also be available through this CDN path.
Yep.
So what we're going to do is we're just going to install this plugin, one of the things on my list is to also write an Umbraco installer for this package. So there's an installer for image processor for Umbraco, so it's just to create an additional add-on that will also have a similar installer method with a with the sort of the installer screen where you put in the keys at the end. But at the moment, I'm sorry, if you want to use this, you have to use NuGet. But yeah, it will come.
Cool. So it's taking that cache. So the cache from image processor is resize the image because of based on this query string or whatever, and then cache the resulting output. That normally obviously lives on the web server wherever it's coming from. But this plugin is then just move that cache folder back up into Azure Blob storage.
Yeah,
cool.
Exactly.
Cool.
Okay, so let me just check. Yeah, we're all good. So when you install this plugin, you have to go into config image processor cache.config. And then obviously this is the file that we need to edit to put in the access keys. So where have I leave the access keys? They are here. Just went to the wrong place in the storage. You hang out demo keys. Copy. It would be useful just to see what the boxes look like. Because if it's an A5 box, then obviously we're talking about one. Hopefully, I don't type anything wrong.
No, it looks fine to me.
The default container is called cache. You can call it whatever you want. There is no problem with that being anything different. And then I need that URL of that CDN. I have got it here, thankfully. So I'm going to put in the CDN URL here. That is optional, but honestly, it's probably pointless to use it without a CDN in front of it. You could do it just because it wouldn't have a disk cache anymore, but it's going to make it fairly inefficient.
Yes, it would.
It would mean that your images were being served from Microsoft storage directly. Which is probably not a great idea. So that's that part. Then the only thing I need to do is change the current cache from disk cache to Azure Blob cache.
Okay, nice.
So build, of course. Okay, so if we go back to the website and we just open a profile, refresh. If we're in luck, now all the images will start being served from CDN, all of them.
Cool.
So the one looked good. Have a quick check here. Yep, so we can see all of the images here have been loaded from CDN. Obviously, the advantage for CDN is it's closer to you. So, for instance, for us in the UK, there is an Azure Edge server in London. There isn't a Azure data center yet.
Nope.
I think you've gone Dalek again.
Oh, seriously.
Meanwhile, I'm just gonna enable a here. So it's going to go into the grid editor, and in the media view, I have got one here I prepared earlier. So I'm just going to edit. This is I think this is built in. It comes with Umbraco by default.
Okay. Yep.
Okay. So I'm just going to switch that to looking up the image and going to get a crop of 300. So whereby currently, look at this picture. I think it's hang on. It's loading the full image. We can see there, not resize or anything like that. It's just loading the size image. So probably don't want that. Probably everyone ever want that. So we'll save that and then refresh. So we can see it's already coming up with the query string.
Yep.
So the image is now loading at 300 pixels, and if we have a look in the network, if we can find the right one, there it is. Yeah, so that's coming from CDN as well.
Cool. So just so I understand how quickly this is working, so you've made a new crop. That obviously the source image is in Blob storage.
Yeah.
You've asked Image Resizer, make me a crop of 300.
Mm-hmm.
That's then generated and put the cache or the cropped version or resized version, whatever. And that's put it also on Blob storage, and then the CDN is gone, oh, there's a new file here, I can serve this up from the CDN.
Exactly. Now,
Sweet.
The starter kit doesn't come with an image cropper, it's just using our upload, but image processor is resizing it regardless. Obviously, if you actually switch this to an image cropper, you can see it is pretty much instant. If you have a focal point, you can actually move it, save and publish and refresh, and the image is served from CDN, but it's cropped in a different place.
Yeah, awesome.
And it's pretty quick.
Yeah, I was even with you just doing that, then I was impressed how quick it's kind of, get the source, resize it, put it in the cache, then served from the CDN. So
absolutely. And if we have a quick look here, we'll see that we've got files starting to be created in the container. And then obviously, as I said, the CDN is attached in front of that. Of course, the CDN is now attached to both of these containers.
Okay.
So if you did have any PDFs you wanted to deliver through CDN, you could just by using the same prefix /media/ whatever the number is /PDF. There's one issue I've got with that at the moment that we're thinking about how to deal with is obviously, and you mentioned it before, the cache length.
Yep.
So if you uploaded a PDF and it went up into here, the CDN will hold it for a year as I left it for 365 when I installed. So unless you change the file name, you're not going to get a new version from CDN for a year, which is obviously a problem. Now you don't have that problem with images because of the way we're using it with image processor. So we've got a few ideas about how to deal with that. Probably going to have an option to have Umbraco automatically add a timestamp at the end of the file name.
Okay, so at least that way it's unique, and then when next time you upload it or create a new one, the timestamp's different, and then you'll bust the cache, so to speak.
Exactly. So you can't bust the cache with query strings on CDN, so you have to do it with file name itself. So exactly, yeah, that's the idea.
Cool.
Obviously, that, but obviously that only affects non-images. Cool. So. Another application of this is sort of shared development, and one of the issues with distributed teams, with Umbraco 7.3 and obviously 7.3.1, there's the load balancing feature that was implemented enables team development in a sort of different way than we've had before, because any changes that are made in the back office are sent out through the distributed cache. However, obviously the one thing that doesn't cover is media. So if you install this, just the normal original file system plugin, this one here, you can actually use that so that when people are changing content, regardless of where they are, if you've got a shared database, those changes are going to be distributed. And hopefully we've got a fun demo to have a go with here. So I sent Warren a clip of a file of this site earlier, and I think he has it up and running.
Yeah, I'm just about to switch screens. So my screen, for anyone watching, is the screen on the left, and obviously Jeavon's screen is the one on the right. Mine is obviously still warming up a cold start. So whilst that's doing, Jeavon can do what he's going to do.
Okay, cool. So all we're going to do is we're just going to replace this image here with a different image, and obviously Umbraco is going to send out a few messages to the shared database. One is going to be that I uploaded an image or created an image node, and the other one's going to be that I published a home page. So up and running?
No, it's been painfully slow. Always the way when doing demos. Okay. I should have prepared. Come on, Visual Studio. If need be, I will point IS at it.
See if it's portals away. No.
Come on. Let me see if I can run it as non-debug mode and just do Control F5. Control F5.
Hello?
Bum, 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 bum.
Still waiting.
Yes.
Yeah.
The joys of running a VM, Skype, and software that's
Okay.
pushing this out to YouTube.
Okay.
Uh,
Okay. One thing I was going to mention while we're waiting, see if it comes up, is Azure recently, just a few months ago, introduced a new feature for CDNs. And CDNs have been fairly neglected. Or the CDN, I suppose, not neglected. It hasn't had to have much done with it. But they launched this, I think they call it a Fob Portal.
okay, yep.
Which is specific to CDNs, and there's a video on Channel 9 somewhere. And often with new features on Azure, they sort of do these sort of self-contained sub-portals, and then eventually they get integrated into the main portal.
Okay, nice.
Currently with CDN, actually, you have to manage it through the old portal. You can't actually manage it through the new anyway. But you find now this Manage CDN button, which is new,
Mm-hmm.
and this takes you to the sub portal. There's some interesting things you can do in here. So you can do things like compression at edge. So if you had style sheets or media, so obviously if you've got a CDN, which you would have in this scenario,
Mm-hmm. Yep.
you may well decide that you want to put your style sheets and JavaScript up on that CDN as well in another container.
Yep.
So they can just be requested. So with this edge compression, it means that actually on the CDN servers themselves, they can compress these file types. So this is new. So if you put your style sheet up, your users would get served it gzipped, and you wouldn't have to worry about compressing that yourself.
Mm-hmm.
The other feature in here is country filtering, which is an interesting idea. So that if you want your CDN only to be available in certain countries, so if you had video content or something like that, you can come in here and tell it to only allow access
Okay.
to a certain country.
Nice.
That's pretty much all there is there. That's quite major features for CDN. It hasn't changed for years.
Nice.
Any luck on your side,
Yeah,
Ryan?
it's slowly coming to it's slowly coming up. But whilst
Wow, look at
that's doing that, Morton Bock has just asked a question.
Yeah.
Does it actually do a 301 redirect from the local kind of /media path to the CDN URL?
Yeah, it does. I think it's actually a 302. You can see that in here. Yeah. So each request here will get a 302. Oh, you can't see it. Wrong screen. Hang on. Each request here gets a 302. This is using the Blob storage plugin. Obviously, we installed that earlier, so this will do a 302 redirection to the final CDN address.
Cool. Right now my VM is playing ball. Hooray! I'm the one on the left. I'm in the content tree, and obviously, you're on the right.
Okay, and in the front, can you see the front end? Okay.
Let me just switch to the other tab very slowly. Come on, VM. I think my CPU is now could cook an egg on it at the minute.
It's the video encoding at the same time.
Okay. Yep.
Yep.
I can. So halfway down, I've got the picture of Perb throwing a ball into the sky.
Okay, fabulous. And at the top, they say "Welcome to FNU Team."
Welcome to FNU. Yes, welcome to. Oh, hang on. Let me refresh. No, it still says "Welcome to FNU."
Okay. Right. Well, let's see if it works anyway. Let's try it. Okay. I'm going to try and switch this image over to this image from UK Festival the other day. So I'm just going to upload that there. Go on to the home. Switch this image to this one. And save and publish. So if I check my home page, you'll see my image has changed.
Okay.
So,
Fingers
Warren,
crossed.
let's see if anything is working.
Please work. This was working perfectly the other day when we tested this out.
Yeah.
Okay, so I've now got welcome to FNU Teen Demo.
Okay, cool.
It might be that I'm just getting the instructions a little bit slow on
Yep.
my end.
Can do.
Oh, and there it is.
Hey.
Huzzah! I now have also said image of the church.
There you go. That's pretty cool.
That was pretty quick as well.
Yeah, exactly. Obviously, we're using a shared database that in this case I've set up on Azure, but it could be a database anywhere, as long as you're remote workers or even not even remote, but anybody can access that.
Yeah, it probably makes sense now moving forward to just always use a shared database, surely.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, there's a few.
Is there a few kind of caveats or kind of things to be aware of?
There's a few caveats that Shannon's given because effectively this is back office load balancing in terms of the feature. So I've got a back off, I've got an Umbraco, you've got an Umbraco. We're both using the same database, sending instructions. That's not officially supported, and the reason for that is there's a few exceptions that could occur. So I could be working on a node of some sort.
Yeah, I'm literally just about to go into and edit the header of the FNU, if I can. Hello. Well, so you're saying that
so you could be editing a node, and I could delete the parent.
You could delete the parent.
Yeah, while you were doing that, that would cause an unhappy situation for Umbraco.
That would be very unhappy. It's like who wins in that situation. Like, is it the last instruction that gets, or yeah? Yeah.
So nobody's going to win there. It's just going to go messy. So yeah, those are that's the main caveat as to why Umbraco doesn't officially support back office load balancing. Front end is all good. The recommendation, you have as many front ends as you want, but you have only one endpoint for your Umbraco entry. As obviously in this scenario of multiple developers, we're sort of doing lots of backends, doing all sorts of things.
So this works with obviously media, content types.
Dalek again, Warren. Yep.
Doc types. Is it everything in the back office?
Yeah, so the Umbraco part works for everything. So you can add a document type, whatever you want, and it'll replicate to all the other machines through the shared distributed caching.
I want to test that theory.
Yeah, let's try it.
Yours is probably a lot faster and responsive at your end, so it's probably better that you add a property to a doc type.
Okay.
And then let's see if I can see it quickly.
Okay.
So we've passed shared database stuff. Not normally. I've obviously the load balancing kind of feature, so to speak. You would see these changes, but say for example you made a change to a content node and you've updated some content. It's only if I, on the kind of the receiving end as the second developer, went in and republished the XML content cache. Now, obviously, I don't have to do that. I can just refresh the page. It's there. Which is neat. And
another problem classically was examine indexes would get very confused.
Yep.
So all of that stuff is not a problem anymore because the messages cause the refresh. So the cache messages, they're all in there.
Fantastic. So you've just added what property to the home?
A new property in the generic property to the home.
So let me now go there. And if I go to the properties tab and scroll to the bottom, a new property. Hi there. Cool.
So yeah, it's
a nice team workflow in terms of keeping everything in sync and everything up to date.
Yeah.
And making sure that nothing kind of falls out of sync.
Exactly. Yeah. Cool. And obviously with the provider for images, everything's sorted now. So you can exclude the media folder from your source control. Obviously, you still need to CSS all that sort of stuff. You need to just share with source control as you should do currently. So yeah, it's a big step forward, I think. With Umbraco 7.3.
Yeah, fantastic. So I think we wanted to talk about one more thing before we kind of wrap up for today. Installer stuff.
The installer itself.
Yeah, I know that when we spoke earlier in the week that you was like, this is kind of involved actually, this installer.
It is. It does a lot of things. I mean, I can probably have a very quick look here if we just have a look at all the changes that we're showing here from when I started out. There's a lot of stuff, and the main things it's transformed is the file system provider's config file.
Yep.
It's also done some stuff to web config, and it has. Actually, I didn't have it already. It would have transformed the security image processor config file.
Mm-hmm.
If I have it, if I don't have it, it adds it.
Yep.
So yeah, it does quite a few things. The interest here and what I started off with was using what Tim had done with XDT transforms for Umbraco. Obviously, it's very easy to make a NuGet package, and you just write a XDT file for the install, like this one here. Mm-hmm. So this is the XDT file for the file system provider's config. And when you install the NuGet package, it just transforms that file using XDT. And Tim wrote that really cool package action that allows you to run transforms in Umbraco.
Nice.
So
a package action is just taking this XDT and then doing the transform on said files that you need it to do.
Exactly. So you can just go, this is the file to transform, and this is my XDT file.
Yep.
And then it will just do it. The challenge, and I started out with that on this package, and it works brilliantly. The problem is that because these values are required, like the account name and the key and stuff.
Yep.
If I just transform this while it's running, it just white-sods the back end, the front end, everything died. They're not valid.
Yep.
So it wasn't quite so easy. So thought long and hard about this. I like the principle that you have a single XDT file that's used in both the NuGet package and the Umbraco package.
Yep. Makes sense.
So if you add a new parameter or whatever, then
you've only got to update it in one location.
Yep. Exactly. So it's stuck with that, and what I basically did was created that that configurator, I think I called it, which is the screen that comes up at the end.
Mm-hmm.
Now in Umbraco, these are still user controls. Unfortunately. And you just tell in your package manifest where to run it.
Okay. So after I finished installing, go to this user control.
So it is a user control, but actually I just treated it as an Angular view, and I did no web form stuff, and I just put in some Angular.
Yep.
This package does actually work in Umbraco 6.5 as well, so I've got a tiny little conditional there that just says if I'm on 6, I need to get Angular because I don't have it, and also, So,
nice.
But it does work. It works in 6.25 if anybody wants to still use that version. Anyway, so I just literally treated it as an Angular view. Obviously, it doesn't have any Umbraco context, so it's its own little Angular app.
Yep.
But it just meant that it's familiar, and hopefully, it makes it a bit more future-proof, because I'm quite sure with package migrations or whatever comes in the future, these will become Angular views like everything else.
Yeah, it would be nice.
So basically it just loads that up. Obviously it has a controller, and it does some make some web API requests. So what those web API controllers do is they actually edit the XDT file. So the XDT file gets installed and saved to disk by the installer, and then that form actually edits the XDT file. So it edits this file here and puts in the values that you've entered in the form. And then it runs the transform, as it would do normally. Mm-hmm. So it's done all the checks. It knows the values are correct. So then it just runs that as it would have done as if it was NuGet. But it's just pre-filled in the values so that they're right, and so that your site works afterwards. Cool. Also, I put in that quite a lot of checking to make sure you put in is valid and works, so that hopefully...
So are you testing the connection string, so to speak?
Yeah, exactly. Cool. Yeah, we do a test on the connection string.
Make sure it works. You can create a folder or a container or...
Yeah, I think there was some weird thing. I found you have to do like get permissions or something. It's quite passive, so it doesn't actually check it until you do something something quite serious, and then it actually makes a connection through. So it does that. It also checks that your image processor version is high enough. I think you have to be version image processor.web v4.3.2 or above. Mm-hmm. If you're using Umbraco 7.3, that's all fine, because the dependency is higher than that. But if you're using Umbraco 6 or 7.1, 7.2, then you need to update image processor as well, and the installer will run, but it won't do the image processor part. It will give you a warning at the end saying you need to update that yourself. So yeah, it's quite cool. So it's sort of built on top of what Tim has done, and I think
that's a very nice kind of package action. So
exactly.
having to kind of have one transform that works in both places is fantastic.
Exactly.
Not having to kind of maintain more files for more things, for more configurations, and then you make an update and you forget to update one and not the other, and yeah, it's neat.
Exactly, and it still needs a bit more tidying up and working out, but it's because it actually reads these values. So if you were to add a new setting in here, the installer would automatically add another row into the form.
Okay, so the Angular view, so to speak, is just working off the base of this file, so to speak. That there's a new parameter, so show a new field. So cool.
Exactly. So if you had a different package and you wanted to use this, you could just.
So the kind of the dashboardy thing is semi-generic then, like you say, it could be used across different packages.
Yeah, exactly. And I want to make it a bit more generic, but it already is fairly generic. It just requires the XPath to know where to get its values from, and then it will generate the form.
No, that's nice. That's very, very nice.
Somewhere in here, I can't remember where.
So is that part of this project, or is it kind of as a separate project, so to speak, that's been as a dependency that's referenced in?
At the moment, it's part of this project, but it possibly could be. Well, it's easy to copy and paste it, but it could possibly be separate. But I suppose, it could be configured. But it's just about if you have any config where you have values basically that need to be set.
Yeah, it's a nice way of having it work basically. So the UI is reflected by this XDT file. If you add a new parameter, it shows up and it's configured. And then obviously passed back to the XDT to then put in its transform to said file.
Exactly. So the transform happens after the XDT has been edited, basically, and the values put in.
Yeah, that's really slick.
I added an extra bit in there so that if you've installed it before for upgrades, it will actually check for values from the file system providers .config as well, and then merge.
So it's doing it the other way. So it's checking, grab them, update it again.
Exactly.
Very, very nice.
Hopefully for upgrades it work. It's actually a problem I had with NuGet. It took me ages to find this. It took Sebastian remembered as well. Eventually, I had the uninstall XDT. So you would want that. So if you remove the NuGet package, it removes all the configuration. It's done. However, with NuGet, if you upgrade a package, it actually executes the uninstall and then the install, which means that if you put in the values,
you're going to lose them.
They're gone.
You're going to lose them between an upgrade then.
Exactly. So it's the reason Umbraco doesn't have uninstall XDTs. And so actually, I don't put the uninstall XDT into the NuGet package anymore because I'm more worried about upgrades than removals. But,
and I think it's a relatively small file that they can, if there is a problem, So
obviously NuGet should have .upgrade.xdt or something.
I'm surprised that they haven't, but
there you go. So the Umbraco installer in some ways is better.
Cool.
But combine the two. That's what I do.
Yeah, definitely.
The Umbraco one, then install NuGet, and the best of everything.
Exactly. I'm just keeping an eye on questions just whilst we've been chatting. It doesn't seem like we've got any more, but just double check it. Nope. I'm just now checking Twitter. No, I think it's been a kind of relatively straightforward, but informative demo. It kind of install this, it just works, fill in a few connection strings from Azure, and Bob's your uncle kind of thing.
Absolutely, yeah. Sorry the portal doesn't work. I can't show you how to create a storage account, but there's plenty of information out there about it.
Yeah, there is plenty of info. So is it still dead?
Yeah.
Oh, awesome. Well done, Microsoft.
Oh, we did it without.
Yeah, exactly. So
Cool.
I think, is there anything else to add? Is there kind of more stuff to be added to the package that needs to happen? Like you said, you're obviously doing tidy up in regards to the kind of the XDT stuff, but in regards to the actual file system provider, is it kind of done, so to speak?
Yeah, it's working very well. I think we're very close to releasing it without the beta tag. But
yeah, I just noticed it's 050 beta.
Yeah, we haven't officially pushed it, but I think it's pretty ready.
What's the reasoning behind it so far?
It's just been a period of iteration and checking things out. I had one question I was trying to think through about the PDF and the cache timing before. Just said that's a setting. It was mainly that max days, whether that should be max minutes or whatever. But I think we're going to leave it and have another add-on package if you want to use CDN for PDFs or whatever that does that renaming thing.
Yeah, I think that maybe makes sense. It seems like it's well documented. When I saw the GitHub page, it seems like it was nicely documented. So if I do choose to go the NuGet route first as opposed to installing it via an Umbraco package, then it's going to be easy to follow.
And the Umbraco as a service documentation here,
how is this any different from the documentation that's on your site? Is it just so that it just different connection strings working with Umbraco as a service?
I think it is mostly the same, but it is specific to Umbraco as a service, and it's sort of Paul's gone through it. He's done it himself. Mm-hmm. And he's just gone through all the different steps that he did. And it does both packages. This is installing both the provider and the Blob storage cache, I think. Yeah. So he does both packages in one tutorial. Obviously, for Umbraco as a service, it's very useful because you don't want media in your Git repository, and also just using it on your local machine and then on Umbraco as a service, you've got no problems with media.
Yeah, exactly. No, that'd be slick as.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you for taking the time to chat with me today.
No worries.
And I will catch up with you very, very soon.
Great. Thanks, Warren.
Speak to you later.